Welcome to the first edition of Annapolis Week from MarylandReporter.com. Joining us today is Senator Nancy Jacobs of Harford County, and she's going to talk about her new job. She's the new Senate Republican leader. Thanks for being here, Senator.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I also represent Cecil County.
All right, Harford and Cecil County,
Okay.
yes. But you live in Harford.
I live in Harford, but my Cecil County people are very important.
Yes, ma'am. So your becoming minority leader is a bit unexpected after the resignation of Senator Alan Kittleman. Why did you decide to seek the post?
I had several of our Senate members approach me and asked me to consider doing it. And enough of them approached me that I thought, well, maybe I should. And I talked to my family, and my husband was all on board. And so I thought, okay, I will.
You and the new minority whip, Senator E.J. Pipkin, from who also happens to live in Cecil County,
Yes.
but we call him the Upper Shore because he represents several counties there. You're seen as more conservative than the two men that you replaced. Do you think that's true?
In some areas it might be true, but for the most part, I mean, both of them were fiscal conservatives. EJ and I are both fiscal conservatives. I don't know that EJ and I line up, exactly the same positions on social issues either. So, I don't know that you could automatically say that that's true.
What are you two going to be doing differently as we're looking ahead?
Well, I'm not sure. I was very, very happy with the leadership of Alan Kittleman. I was his minority whip for 2 years. I thought Alan did an outstanding job. He was extremely thoughtful and deliberative in everything he did.
And you don't think his philosophical differences with some of the caucus on some issues was a big deal, or?
Well, we didn't feel it was a big enough deal that he should resign over it. We were kind of flabbergasted when that happened. There were some members that would have preferred that, since he is the leader, that he would not have put the civil union bill in. But most of us had known for a number of years that he felt that way. And
He'd gotten up on the floor and supported benefits for same-sex couples.
Yes.
So
it was no surprise to the majority of us. A few people, when he talked to them on the phone, there was only a couple people that expressed that they might be upset by it. And so he called a special meeting for all of us to get together and talk. And I thought it was a very healthy meeting.
And then
a few days later, he said he just felt like he should step down as leader. So he feels free to pursue these other pieces of legislation that he feels strongly about personally. He didn't want it to hurt the caucus, and he thought it might hurt the caucus if he was one way and we were another on some, like the civil unions. But
the caucus is now down to 12 members, and with Senator J.B. Jennings going to Air Force training, you're going to have 11 members most of the session. What kind of influence can you exercise?
Well, let me point out, too, I mean, we're all very proud of J.B. He definitely he loves his country, he's willing to serve, and we're proud of that. A lot of times, being the minority party, we're voting no on some of the things that we disagree with the Democrat majority on. And if he is not here, JB's not here, that won't change the outcome of that vote. However, if there's something that's really important that we need a yes vote for, that could change it. But he's going to be keeping in close contact with all of us. He may do Skype and talk to us all the time. If we see a vote coming up that's important, we're taking up a J.B. Jennings airfare fund. Because
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, because he will be able to fly back and forth. He's not a 7-day-a-week job that he's going. He will have a couple of days off. and because the flight simulator is available on weekends as well, he can work on weekends and then make himself available for 2 days during the week if there's something crucial coming up that we need his vote on.
But still, whether you're 11 or 12 or 14, as you were in the prior term, there are not a lot of votes there to work with.
There's not a lot of votes there. We wish we had a lot more. But there are a fair amount of conservative Democrats, and on some issues we could make a difference when we work together with conservative Democrats or the Black Caucus. And there have been those times when we are in agreement on things. And we can vote to send a bill back to committee, and that's happened before. You see some odd combinations once in a while of legislators teaming up on things.
You just had a meeting with Senate President Mike Miller. You've had many meetings with him in the past, I'm sure, but your first meeting as leader, how did that go? What did you talk about?
It went very well. We talked about several issues. We talked about the committees that I'm going to be on, that you inherit as minority leader. We barely touched on that. We talked about our relationship, and he assured me that he will work with me. He has no problem with me. I think he's more worried about the liberal end of his caucus than he is the Republican caucus.
Really? Really? We're on what kind of issues?
Probably a lot of issues. I would imagine
gay marriage,
the death penalty. You know, two very high-profile issues this session.
Yeah, and he's even pointed out many times in the past he's probably more conservative than his own caucus.
In many areas, that is true.
So as leader, sometimes they're pulling him along as opposed to him actually leading.
Well, and also to his credit, when he knows this, there are times that he will let bills come to the floor, that he doesn't have to let bills come to the floor, and because his caucus supports it.
So what are your main goals for this session?
Well, we feel very strongly about the governor's budget and some of the things that are in it. You know, he spent the campaign season talking about Governor Ehrlich raising taxes and fees, and then, you know, he spent a lot of money having people point out that fees are taxes. If it's a fee, it's a tax. Well, now he's raising all kinds of fees, and he's saying he's not raising taxes. You know, that's a little disingenuous.
So are you going to be opposing those fees, you think?
I'm going to be opposing, we're going to be opposing a lot of them, I would think. You know, there's some sleight of hand going on with this budget, robbing Peter to pay Paul, even more so than usual. You know, we're raiding the Transportation Trust Fund, as usual, and a lot of the other dedicated funds.
Program Open Space. Chesapeake Bay Restoration Fund.
Yeah, he's raiding a lot of them. And what he's doing is, okay, he's taking them and putting them in the general fund, and then in order to make up for it, he's going to bond the money. They're going to sell bonds on the money, rather than making up for it with money from somewhere else. And, you know, that's, I mean, at best I could say that's very creative, balancing the budget. But it truly isn't. We're borrowing in order to balance the budget.
Well, we have to wrap up. Thanks very much for being with us. And God willing, join us next week for Annapolis Week with MarylandReporter.com.